Okay, Mr. Minnick here, in yet another part of this video. I'm picking up with where I left off and reviewing the Python practice final exam for course number 505. Exercise number 11. No, I never finished number 10. Number 2, the value 7, got inputted for num, and it is not an even number. So it did not, nothing happened with this if statement. The value 2 now gets inputted for num. And at that moment, because the value 2, when 2 is divided by 2, its remainder is 0. So 2 mod 2 does simplify to 0. And since 0 is equal to 0, since that's true, we do indeed execute this for the first time. Num, which is currently 2, is added into sum. So that 0 plus 2 is 2. We go back up to the top of the while loop. The next number that gets inputted by the user is a 4. So a 4 gets plugged in for num. This if statement evaluates, and because 4, the remainder of 4 divided by 2 is 0, it's evenly divisible. In other words, 4 is an even number. This if statement is true, and therefore we do execute this line of code. I know it's getting messy, but num, which is currently 4, is being added into sum for a total of 6. We go back up to the top of the while loop. This time the user enters a -1 in for num. So I'm running out of room here. That -1 gets plugged in for num. And -1 is not an even number. Just trust me that this if statement is false, and therefore the computer loops back up to the top, and we ask for the while loop's control expression. Is -1 greater than or equal to 0? False. So we don't do the code inside, and we print. We really probably don't need that str function there. I might even delete that from this practice exam. When we print sum, 6 prints as the answer. Turning it into a string would sort of put quotes there, which really doesn't affect the output. People will not see those quotes. I'll probably edit this exam by the time you watch this video. So anyway, you might want to circle your 6 here and your -1 here, and just write a 6 in there for the output. Number 11, all of these variables are initialized to 0. I see that. A while loop, while score is not equal to -1. So I'm going to be inputting 3 numbers before I get to the sentinel value of -1. The first number that gets inputted is a 90. So 90 plugs in for score. 90 is not equal to -1. Therefore, we do indeed execute this body of the if statement. So we add 1 to count. We add score into sum. 90 gets added into 0. We go back up to the top of the loop. We input another number, 70, for score. Score is not -1, so we add 1 to count. We add the 70 into sum. We go back up to the top of the loop. We input the number 80. We add 1 to the count. We add 80 here for a grand total of 240. We go back up to the top. Another number gets inputted for score, -1. I'm sorry, I forgot to write the 80 in here. Technically, there was an 80 there. I forgot to write it. Now there's a -1 there. And we check out this if statement. If score not equal to -1. Well, score is currently -1. So -1 not equal to -1 is a false, which means we do not execute this code. We go back up to the top of the while loop. -1 is currently not equal to -1. That's a false. It's a false control expression also. So the body of the while loop doesn't execute anymore. And we drop down to these two lines of code, which are not inside the body of the while loop because their indentation is not indented. So the variable average, which was 0, is now going to be equal to whatever sum divided by count is. 240 divided by 3. That's 80. So the number 80 plugs into average. And we print average. So in other words, this code segment added up these three numbers and divided by 3. And it counted how many numbers so that it would have an accurate average, as if those were 3 test scores, and they averaged out to a B, a low B, 80. Up here, number 10, only the even numbers were added up. The odd numbers were ignored, so 6 was the output, because 2 plus 4 is 6. Those are the even numbers. Number 12, we have a Boolean flag variable called done, and it's equal to false. And these are the number of A's is 0 and score is 0. Okay. Now, while not done. Done is false, and the not of a false is a true, which means we do go through the loop. Okay, the first score is a 9. Plugs in for score. Is score equal to -1? False. So you check this else if. Is score greater than 8? Yes, it is. 9 is greater than 8. That's a true. So we do execute this code, which means add 1 to the variable num A's. We go back up to the top of the while loop, because this P in print is not indented. The next score is an 8. Is 8 equal to -1? That's a false. Is 8 greater than 8? That's a false. So we don't do anything on this iteration. Instead, we go back up to the top of the while loop. The 9 gets inputted. That makes this true. That's true, and then the 9 gets inputted. Okay, is 9 equal to -1? That's a false, so we don't do this. Is 9 greater than 8? Yes, it is. That's a true. So we do execute this code here. We add 1 to A's. We go back up the top. Currently done is false. The not of false is true. We go through the loop again. This 7 gets inputted. And because 7 is not equal to -1, and it's not greater than 8, nothing happens. We go back up to the top. The false, the not of a false is a true, so we go through again. This time, according to the exercise, we're supposed to assume that this -1 gets inputted here. So score is now, I forgot to update this. It became an 8, it became a 9, it became a 7, and now score is a -1. Okay, is -1 equal to -1? That's true. So the done changes to true. That false gets crossed off and you should write a true. Because you got a true here on the if statement, you don't trickle down and do anything here with the else if. You ignore it. Because once you get a true in an if, else if, else if, else if, you're out of there. You stop executing the if statement. Okay, we go back up to the top of the loop. Now let's analyze this carefully this time. Work from inside the parentheses out. The variable done is currently true. The not of a true, the opposite of a true, the not of a true, is a false. So the inside of these outer parentheses is really a false. And the way a while loop works is if it's while false, you don't do the body of the while loop. You're done. And in this case, we print the number of A's, which is 2. And notice, only 2 people got A's if these were the 4 quiz scores. Number 13. All these variables are 0, but we're supposed to assume the user inputs these numbers. The 3 gets inputted here for score. Is 3 greater than or equal to 6? False, and it doesn't matter what's after the and. That makes this whole if statement false, so we don't do that. But we do go back up to the top of the while loop. Another number gets inputted here, that's 7. And we ask, is 7 greater than or equal to 6? And is 7 less than or equal to 10? Since score is currently 7, this half is true, and this half is true, and when you have a true ANDed with another true, the whole thing is true. Therefore, because this if statement is true, we do execute these lines of code. We add 1 to count. We add score into whatever sum is. Okay, score is currently 7. We add that into that 0. We loop back up to the top of the while loop. The next score is 8. And we analyze this if statement now. When score is equal to 8, 8 is greater than or equal to 6, so that's true. 8 is indeed less than or equal to 10, that's true, and true makes it true. Therefore, if the if statement is true, we do execute this. Count has 1 added to it. Sum gets whatever score is added to it. Score is 8. Sum is 7, so this becomes 15. We go back up to the top of the while loop. And this time, the value -1 gets inputted here for score. And this time, for the first time in this exercise, well, no, not for the first time, but just anyway, -1 is, that makes this false. And even though this is true over here, a false ANDed with a true means the whole thing is false. So therefore, we don't do anything inside the if statement. We go back up to the top of the while loop. And score is currently -1. Is -1 not equal to -1? False. So we don't do anything in the body of this while loop. We're finished with it, and we execute this code for the last two things that we do here. Average is equal to whatever sum divided by count is. Okay, you can't use a calculator on this test, but 15 divided by count. You should be able to take 15 divided by 2 with long division. That works out to be 7.5. So the answer is print average 7.5. I'm going to circle this. Circle the circle the 15 there. That was a 15, and the average became a 7.5 at the end here of this exercise. Okay, let's do this section here, the exam. We have some string variables, and if there's an error, you should write error over here. Let's proceed. Work from inside the parentheses out. The variable name is equal to Jane. So the len of Jane as a string variable, the length is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 letters are there. So we're printing the value 4. Number 2, work from inside the parentheses out. The lower method takes, in this case, nation, which is the word united, and it makes it all lowercase. So the U is now lowercase, and this plus means string concatenation. So we're concatenating 2 strings together. We're joining them together, the word united with the word states. There's no space here. So the output that gets printed is united, all lowercase, and there's no space, but this S is still uppercase. So be careful how you write it. And at least this year, I'm not requiring people to put double quotes around these string answers in this section of the test. So there's your answer for number 2. Number 3, more string concatenation. Jane is being concatenated or joined with Doe. And when that simplifies and prints, Jane has a capital J, Doe has a capital D, and there's no extra space there. Number 4, you should know what the square brackets do with regard to strings. Because name is equal to Jane, and the J is in position 0 of that string, and the A is in position 1, and so on. The way square brackets work here, you start at position 0, and you go up through, but not including whatever number is there. So you don't include the n. You just take this substring out of the whole thing, the whole string, and that's the answer, just J, J-A, capital J. If that's not an uppercase J, you'll lose the point for this exercise. It was J here, a capital J, so it should be a capital J or there. Number 5, there's a find method with strings. It finds the position of whatever this is. The A is in position 1, because that J is in position 0. And all of this just simplifies to a 1, and we're printing 1. If we're looking for a lowercase j, and it's the word Jane here, and there is no lowercase j, if what you're trying to find isn't in there, it's just the way Python works, it ends up simplifying to -1. It's just the rule. You should read the notes, review other videos, or annotated worksheets, answers in this website. Number 7, does the word NITE, is it found anywhere in nation? Yes, it is. It starts right here. And the N starts in position 1, because the U is in position 0. And that's where it starts, and therefore that's what all this simplifies to, a 1. Is a T found in the United States? Yes, it is. It's found right there. The first T is found right there, and that's position 0, 1, 2, 3. That's a position 3. So that 3 gets stored in the variable POS. POS is equal to 3. And now we execute this line of code, working from the right to the left. Okay, let's find in the variable nation, United States up here, let's find a T. But because of this comma and then this POS, this position plus 1, position is 3, 3 plus 1 is 4, and because of this comma 4, because now we're trying to find T, comma 4, nation dot find T, comma 4. So we're going up to nation again, and this 4 means start looking only when you get to position 4. So let's go to United States and count into position 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Position 4 is this E. So you're only looking at this section of United States. And is there a T in that section? Yeah, this T would be the next one that's found. And that T is found in what position of the original string nation? That second T is found in position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The space is position 6, 7, 8. The output is 8 because that's what number gets stored in the variable other num, and other num is then printed. Number 9. Here we have what's called a list. We studied this in our course this semester. The 60, 80, 70 are in positions 0, 1, and 2 of this list. We have a for loop. I is starting at 0. Tricky has whatever this is added to it. The variable tricky starts at 0 according to this up here. Now grades I. I is 0. Position 0 of the list is the number 60. So really it's a fancy way of saying add 60, add it into tricky. Oh, okay, that was easy. We go back up to the top of the for loop because it's indented there. I goes to 1. This time through the for loop. This time I is 1. We go to position 1 here and find that 80. 80 gets added to tricky for a grand total of 140. We go back up to the top of the loop. Does I go to 2? No, it doesn't, because the way this for loop works, I stops there. It does not hit 2. The answer is 140. Only the 60 and the 80 were added up there because of the trickiness of this exercise where that 2 is there instead of a 3. We only added up the first 2 numbers and not all 3 numbers in that list. And we print tricky, which is 140. Okay, number 10, we have Barney Rubble with a space in between the two names. Name 01, work from inside the parentheses out. Name 01, so you go to name, you start at position 0, and you go up to, but not including the 1. So B, all of that is just B, string concatenation with whatever this is. Go to position 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the Y. Go up to, but not including position 6. Well, the space is position 6, but we're not including it anyway. So this Y is what this part simplifies to. And when you have the letter B plus the letter Y, the output would be capital B and a lowercase y. Number 11, the variable name is equal to Jane, but then in this line of code, we're making it all lowercase, and that's plugging in for name, and then we're printing name. So we're printing the lowercase version of Jane. Here we have a list, positions 0, 1, and 2. The length of this list is 3. Don't think of it as 2. Think of it as 3 things. 1, 2, 3. 3 elements. So that number 3 is being stored in the variable named length. Okay, keep track of that. I would recommend keeping track of the length here as a variable. Now we're printing whatever all this is. Well, we got to work from inside the square brackets out. That 3 minus 1 simplifies to 2. And because we still have the square brackets here, grades square brackets 2 means grades position 2, 92. So print 92. All this simplifies to 92. Number 13, the append method takes this 83 and squeezes it into the list and adds it to the end. And if we print grades, we're printing the whole list with this 83 included. So you should put the square brackets here because you're printing the whole list. And I'm trying to be as neat as possible here. The 83 now needs to be tucked in there, and that's the answer there to this exercise. Number 14, grades position 1. This is 0. The 83 is in position 1. So the 83 is what we are printing out there. And number 15, positions 0, 1, and 2. The del command deletes whatever is after it. Grades 1, we're deleting the 83. So grades at this point, when we get this far, is 64 and 92. And since we're printing the whole list, we should put square brackets there. The 83 was deleted. Number 16, the insert method takes the second number after the comma and inserts it into this position number. So this was position 1, the 64, but the 82 is now going in there. But that doesn't cross out or overwrite the 64. It just pushes the 64 back, and the 83 gets pushed back, and the 92 gets pushed back. So this line of code makes the list, turns it into 82, comma 64, comma 83, comma 92. And we're printing it, so you need to write it over here neatly on your test sheet, test paper. That's what insert does. Number 17, oh, append, that means add it to the end. Then this line of code basically wipes out the whole list. It says empty out the list, put nothing in there. And now if we append 69, we basically are putting 69 in this empty list that on this line of code was emptied out. So this append never really meant a thing, didn't do anything. And when we print grades, it's simply 69. You should put the square brackets there because it is technically a list and not just the number 69. 18, we're starting with an empty list, but we're adding 53 to it. Then we're appending 89. And then we're appending 32. And then we're printing the whole thing. So on your test paper, you should put square brackets, 53, 89, and 32. Exercise 19, we're starting with an empty list again. 33, 99, 32, 44. But we're sorting it. So Python automatically puts these in ascending numerical order. The 32 will be rearranged first, the 33 would be next, the 44 would be next, and the 99 would be there. And we're printing the whole array, so we need square brackets. 32 in order because we sorted. And be sure to put your commas in here and try to write more neatly than I am on this video. Number 20, we have a list, positions 0, 1, and 2. We have a loop variable I and a for loop. Now, because of this notation, the length of grades is 3. So this is really just range parentheses 3, which means start I at 0 and then go through the loop if grades square brackets I equals 75. Well, I is currently 0. Is the number in position 0 75? No, it's not. So this is a false. We don't print yes, but we do go back up to the top of the for loop. And because this is really simplified as for I in range 3, the I bumps up to 1. And because I is 1, it plugs in there like that. Is position 1 equal to 75? Yes, it is. This is a true. This if statement is true. So we do print yes. And it does loop around again. And this 99, because it's not 75, it doesn't print yes a second time. So the answer is just yes. In other words, 75 was found in the list. If it wasn't in there, yes would not have printed. Number 21, here we have a big long list, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 position numbers. This length simplifies to 5 for I in range 5. So I starts at 0, and the 0 position is not equal to 100, so this is false. We don't do this the first time around the loop. Second time around the loop, sorry about this messiness. And second time around the loop, I is now 1. Is this is position grades 100? Yes, it is. This is a true T. So we print I. Oh, we print I. We're not printing the 100. We're just printing the I. And then we're hitting this break, which means break out of the for loop and you're done with this exercise. So we printed the I and not the position, the element that's in position I. Number 22. Okay, we have some variables here. The length of grades, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all this simplifies to 5. I starts at 0 once again. And we ask if grades I greater than mystery. Well, mystery is 70. And I is 0. But we're in the square brackets here. So that means go to position 0 of grades and ask, is 65 greater than 70? No, it's not. This is false. So we don't do this. But we do go back up to the top of the for loop. We do add 1 to the variable I. And we do we analyze this all over again. Okay, that's really a 5. Okay, is grades I, which is 1, is grades 1 greater than mystery? Well, is 75, position 1 is, the 75 is in position 1, is 75 greater than mystery, which is 70? Yes, all this is true. So we do execute this code, which says take grades I, which is currently grades 1, take the 75, and plug it into mystery. Okay, so mystery, we need to keep track of mystery. Mystery was 70, and now it's 75. And we go back up to the top of the for loop, and I goes up to 2. And we ask if the 90 is greater than mystery, which is currently 75. Yes, 90 is greater than 75. So this time around, we're taking the 90, which is in position 2. I is currently 2. The 90, which is in position 2, plugs into mystery. And we go back up to the top. So we're in the middle of a linear search looking for the maximum number. We studied this earlier in the semester, remember. I is up to 3. 95, is 95 greater than mystery? 90, yes it is. So the 95 this time plugs into mystery. I goes up to 4. Is 80 greater than mystery? No, it's not. 80 is not greater than 95, so we don't do anything here, but we do go back up the top of the for loop. And because range parentheses 5, the 5 is greater than 4, we're done. And we print mystery, which is at this point 95. In other words, mystery is the biggest number that was in that list. Okay, number 23. It looks like it's the last exercise in this section of the test. These are positions 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Tricky is equal to grade 0. 85 is equal to tricky. So we have tricky here. By the time you watch this video, I may have made columns for these variables, or I may not. You should always keep track of your variables by adding your own columns, and if you have to. Anyway, tricky is 85 because of this line of code here. Now, for I in range 3, I starts at 0. We ask if grades I. If grades position 0, which is 85, is 85 less than tricky? Is 85 less than 85? No, it's not. That's a false. So we don't do this. But we do go back up to the top of the for loop. I goes up to 1. And we ask the question, is grades I, which is a 1, is grades position 1, 75, less than tricky? Yes, 75 is less than tricky. So because all this is true, we do execute the code right here that's indented inside the body of the if statement. Grades I is currently 1. Grades I, that's the 75, plugs into tricky. Oh, okay, that's interesting. We go back up to the top of the for loop. I goes up to 2, this time through the for loop. Because I is 2, grades square brackets 2 means take this 90 and ask, is 90 less than tricky? Is 90 less than this 75 here? No, it's not. False. So we don't do anything. We go back up to the top of the for loop. Now here's where it really gets tricky. Because of this 3, because we did not put len grades here, like in this previous problems, because of that 3, and I is currently 2, the for loop stops. It doesn't hit the 3. That's the way for loops work. It just stops. And we're done with the for loop. We're now printing tricky, which is 75. This loop was meant to find the smallest number. It was on its way to finding the smallest number. The 85 was replaced with the 75. It should have found that 72, but it didn't go far enough. The programmer, the coder, put a 3 there when they probably shouldn't have. So that's the answer to that last exercise on this part of the test. Good luck when you take the real final exam.